Good morning and welcome to First Glance Commerce. Here on the for all things e-commerce in the Caribbean. Our guests join us from all across the world and generously share their expertise, knowledge, and insight into the digital world and how we operate within it. To join us on LinkedIn or YouTube, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that will help you grow your online business. As always, I'm joined by Chris, the CEO of First Glance Commerce, and we have the privilege of speaking to two individuals. We have a global conversation today. We have my Carlos Newton, he is in Trinidad, and Diane Edwards, and she is in Jamaica. Carlos is the manager of financial system service delivery at the Trinidad Tobago Financial Center. Sorry, that's a lot of stuff happening there. But he's responsible for planning and implementation strategies. Diane is the president of Jamaica Promotions Corporation, affectionately known as JAMPRO, the National Investment and Export Promotion Agency. So let's just welcome everybody today. Chris is in Bermuda, so we have a whirlwind of individuals across the Caribbean. Hi, everybody.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Okay, so we have so much information to cover in a very short time. I'm going to talk about the national e-commerce strategy from a public sector perspective. So let's go to Diane, because we're going to go from Jamaica and come down. What would you say is the singular key element for a national e-commerce strategy?
Well, morning, Pauline, and morning, everyone, and really great to be here. I think it's a great conversation, the whole question of e-commerce, because if it wasn't topical before COVID, it's definitely topical during and after COVID. So we were just saying in the preamble to this talk that e-commerce has now become steps on the stage and has become a feature of life for our SMEs. So what the government has done and what JAMPRO was very involved in during the COVID period is Go Digital. We created a program called Go Digital in conjunction with the Development Bank of Jamaica to help SMEs and MSMEs to take their businesses digital. And so e-commerce was a factor within that Go Digital space. So the government has developed a number of enabling legislations and policies around promoting e-commerce. So one of them, of course, is the National Broadband Network Initiative, where they're really trying to bring broadband to the nooks and crannies of Jamaica through our National Works Agency, which is a public works agency. So that's really linking schools, linking businesses, linking households to a national broadband network. Also, Go Digital has really looked at how do we channel more funding into small and medium-sized businesses so that they can take advantage of digital technologies in their businesses and expand e-commerce. And then, of course, the whole question of payment systems is important. And so the Bank of Jamaica has what they call a sandbox, and that's a regulatory sandbox. So innovators can go in there and try out their ideas, and the bank can decide how to regulate some of these ideas. So we've seen a whole lot of new payment systems coming on board, and we've even done things like cashless farmers markets to demonstrate to farmers and MSMEs that you can really operate in a cashless society, and it's actually better for you. The transaction costs are lower, and your security is higher. So there are a number of things, of initiatives that we're taking to build up the whole e-commerce and payment space.
Wow, that sounds very promising, and there's a lot to actually break out there. But from a perspective, Carlos in Trinidad, when it comes to the digital transformation, which is such a trendy topic across every single industry, why is it important for the public sector to be part of that conversation?
That's important because what that will enable is persons ease of doing business and persons being able to access government services easily or be able to transact cashless, be able to transact online using e-commerce facilities. So that will enable anyone, be it locally, regionally, to actually transact and work with the government, do business with the government on a whole. So that will enable that, and utilizing, coming off of what was just said, and having all these farmers markets and the local businesses, and creating that environment, that e-commerce environment, to have everyone included.
Yes, I was choppy earlier. Thanks for that, Carlos. Yes, Jack, I'm much better, refreshed. The internet is something I can't control. So, the digital transformation is so important, and for everyone under lockdown, it means something different. But for the most part, we've been on a lot of Zoom calls. So, Chris, can you share with us, any insight you would have been privy to as it comes to the e-commerce space in the Caribbean and the adoption for being online and paying online for local goods and services?
Yeah, sure. And thanks so much, and great to speak with you this morning. So, from our perspective as a payment gateway company, we had direct sort of ringside seats to, the impact that COVID had on online transactions. So, as a company that had been working within that space for, nearly a couple of decades within the Caribbean, the will was there, but the adoption hadn't necessarily been as fast as everybody would have wanted to see. And some of that's definitely driven by the sort of national e-commerce strategies of all the different countries. So what we saw obviously over that time period is that nobody could go outside. Everybody still needed to buy goods and services and get paid. So this sort of accelerated a 24, 36 month strategy into about 2 or 3 months. So it was a huge explosion of online transactions, huge explosion of companies that needed to get online to survive and get paid. And when we look at that, sort of 2 years plus out, we don't really see that slowing down either, because even though that everything is more open, people feel more safe going out and going into stores, people can travel again. The demand for the convenience of being able to buy, and pay for things domestically online is still huge. Like, supermarkets, for example, a lot of the delivery functionality that might have been there before, but people didn't really take advantage of. People have really seen how convenient that is, and really want to be able to continue doing that, and how much easier it's made their lives, or not standing in line to pay their utility bill or their telco bill. When they can easily do that, from the comfort of their own home, or through their phone, or from an app. So it's been it's been really eye-opening for a lot of people that might have been skeptical before, in terms of the security and whether or not they really needed to do and buy things online, to a whole regional movement towards wanting even more online services that they can take advantage of.
That's
And
some great insight.
Pauline, if I could add to that,
Sure.
the government of Jamaica has actually taken some bold steps to bring a lot of transactions online. So what JAMPRO is doing is implementing the National Business Portal. And we've gone 2 phases out of 3 into that. We're in the 3rd phase now. So we've put a number of government procedures and processes online. So right now there's the information is there, but we're now in the phase where we're putting the transactions part online. So you'll be able to go online, apply for your construction permit, your driver's license, your work permit, whatever, online, track your progress of your application, and get your approval online. So that's going to go live next year. And that's really, we think, critical, because business to government services, or government to business services, are really going to ramp up and really going to become much more seamless, more predictable, less slow, really. We're just going to accelerate the whole doing business and the ease of doing business. So we think that's a big, big deal.
That sounds exciting, and almost makes me want to jump in a plane and move, because when it comes to renewing one's driver's license in the country of Trinidad and Tobago, it can become a whole day affair, if not a week-long affair. So Carlos, I'm not like pointing fingers or anything.
No,
Wha-
that is soon to change. We
oh
currently
wow, bring
working,
it. Let's
yes,
hear it.
yes, within
Yes.
TTIFC, we're currently working with the Licensing Ministry of Works and License Division to actually change that outlook that is currently there, where you can actually now go on and apply for your driver's license online, renewals online, make your payments online. So that is coming very soon to Trinidad and Tobago. It's within this year, so within this quarter that we in right now. So yeah, that's gonna, as you said, reduce ease of doing business, better interaction with government, and better way to actually access revenue for the government. So yes. So no need to point fingers.
Yeah. Well,
It's coming.
I can say the same for Bermuda sometimes as well. It's we would like to see more services available to be paid for online, and Bermuda recently issued an RFQ to help solve that issue. So which hopefully we'll be part of. So I think Carlos touched on a great point there. Revenue is a key aspect of that. So every government has a large sort of accounts receivable waiting for people to pay for services rendered or licenses rendered by government, and it's really important that that we realize that moving all of this online and digitizing it makes it much easier for people to pay, and therefore more likely that they are going to pay on time and when they're supposed to, and whenever the government requires it. So it's a great motivator for governments, and it should be, in terms of driving down their accounts receivable.
Absolutely. The payment systems providers are going to have a wonderful time for the next, I would say, 10, 20 years. And I'm talking to you, Chris,
Yes.
because, our taxes right now are all online. Payment of taxes, payment of driver's license fees, certificate of fitness for your car. All of that is now totally online. So, the days of having to go and get cash to go get your certificate of fitness for your car, that's done. You pay online now, and then you physically take the receipt and get your car checked out. But you don't have to deal with cash anymore. And that really has made a huge difference to the convenience, because you don't need cashiers. You just go do your transaction.
Yeah.
And this sounds very exciting, especially as a millennial who just wants everything on my phone right now. There's a group of individuals who don't care for that. They are ones who want to see their money. They don't believe in going and checking online to see their funds are there. So within an e-commerce strategy, what is the plan for adoption?
Well, I think you're right. There are a lot of early adopters, but that's why I was saying to you that we're trying to really democratize this and take it down to grassroots. So when Farmer Brown sees that he can bring his produce to a farmer's market, people go to a tent and they swipe their card, they pay for it, and he will get paid at the end of the day. He'll be able to tot up what he's achieved, what in sales, and he'll be able. It's all now much more formal, and instead of him trying to make change and tot up each sale, he can keep a better track of it. So I think it's really taking it down to grassroots level and showing people that this really makes your life easier, especially small business people. And the other ones, I think, importantly, are the elderly, because we actually all have aging populations, which we don't think about a lot. But, for elderly people who run the risk of getting ripped off by younger people, once they learn to do their transactions online, they can pay their utility bills from their home. They can do a lot of transactions which don't require somebody else. So I think that's the way we need to really just broaden people's understanding of what you can do online.
What about you, Carlos?
And yes, and that's the touch on consumer awareness, making, as you said, the aging population, getting them to understand how easy it is to actually transact online, and showing them that this could actually save them time, money in getting these transactions done. So it's all about that, really teaching them, showing them, and encouraging them to actually use these facilities to do business, right? And it comes from, as you said, going to the grassroots, understanding their needs. And when you understand their needs, you can then understand how you need to help them. And this will greatly impact the aging population, the grassroots vendors, the farmers markets. It will really help them out understanding, okay, this is what I need to do. This is how we're going to help them, and we actually help them. We actually do it. Don't say that we're going to do it, but actually do it. And this will actually, they will then accept it because they will see the benefit of it. As it's, touching the transactions, how many transactions you have done for the day, how many sales, and the total volume. You can actually see it in just in one look.
Yeah, for sure. And just to
Yeah,
add to that analogy as well, real world. So there's a farmers market that sets up every weekend very close to where I live, and historically I haven't gone there because it was cash only, and I never really carry cash, and I always forget to get it. But I really want to go to this market, and now they have just simply a point of sale machine where they can take cards, and I'm there every weekend, and I think a lot more people have started to go there because a lot of people are like me and don't carry cash. But want to purchase from there. And so, it's an opportunity gained for all these, little farmers markets. Yes, there's a little bit of cost associated with taking the transaction opposed to cash, but the increase in sales way outweighs that.
Mhm.
I can't. I'm waiting for the day. I'm hoping it happens in my lifetime that I can go to the market, because I have my specific vendors that I go to, and there's this one guy, I call him my herb guy. He has his he writes down every sale. So that, like, for him, I'm like, how are we gonna convince him that he can actually do this online, because he doesn't even have a smartphone.
Okay. Well, I think you have to show him what I was saying, give him a printout at the end of the day that says you've made 20 transactions and, you've earned X thousand dollars, which makes his whole accounting easier. And that's why we really have to get down to the grassroots, because a lot of small vendors or small business owners, they don't know how much they make. They can't tell you what their profit is.
Yeah.
They may be able to tell you their costs, their inputs, but they don't make they don't do double entry bookkeeping, right? So they don't really know what their profit is at the end of the day. So I think it's really bringing them into that world where they start to quantify what their costs are and what their sales are, and help them to keep better track of it. Because much easier if someone gives you a printout at the end of the day than writing it up in some book or on some pieces of paper, and at the end of the day you have to go tot it up. Because if there's one thing I hate, is that totting it up. So I'm sure if the whole thing is really to make people's lives easier. I think that's the important thing.
Yeah. So, Chris, you're about to say something?
Well, yeah, I wanted to continue with one of the questions there as well, and I think it follows on from that point, and Carlos, maybe you can answer this first. Is how do you see sort of digital transformation actually equating in reality to economic transformation?
We have to look at it this way. Globally, right? Digital transformation has changed the way the financial service sector operates, right? The payment space. It has resulted in fundamental changes in the operations, both private and public sector, right? Because remember, digital transformation would enhance the delivery of services and adds value. Now it will make, what will happen is that it will make transactions more affordable, right? On the macroeconomic level, if you to go back to financial inclusion now, it will actually help to reduce poverty. So we have to look at, there's a number of areas we can look at how digital transformation will actually equate to that economic transformation, right? And this is will happen through enhanced value and service to the customer. So when we
And
have
I
to look
would
at that way. Go ahead.
and I would add to that the whole question of predictability of transactions and bringing the informal economy into the formal economy, because most economies in Latin America have huge informal sectors. The estimate in Jamaica is that 40% of the economy is informal. 70% of the people are unbanked or underbanked. So if you bring more and more of those people into the system, you start to measure what is really going on in the economy, because right now we're only measuring 60% or so of what's going on in the economy. So you're not measuring the hairdresser, the barber, the gardener, whatever. But the more you get people into the system, the more you really start to measure real GDP and not estimate what's going on in the informal economy. And I think that that is critical, because we are really planning with one hand behind our backs because we don't have a full picture of what's going on in the economy. So I think that that is critical to progress. I mean, we're about to implement by end of this year the national ID card system, and that again is going to bring more people into the loop. And I keep on saying, that formalization process is what is going to lift everyone, because as long as people stay outside of the formal process, they can't get access to loans, they can't formalize their business, they can't grow their business, they can't scale. So that's where we really need to operate this economic transformation at the base, because the big companies are doing it already.
I have to say, Dan, you have given me some additions to my vocabulary. No longer will I say hustler. I will now say informal sector. I'm not a hustler. I am part of the informal sector.
Yeah. Yeah. And to add to
All
that,
right.
it's strengthening the consumer confidence, strengthening that confidence that the consumer has in these digital financial services that we're providing to them, which will thereby increase the velocity of money and the way money moves digitally now, right? So yeah, there's a lot that to be done that is going to be done within our lifetimes.
Oh, well, that's so promising. So, what we're going to do, because I definitely want to have that unbanked and financial inclusion conversation, but we'll talk about it right after the break. And welcome back.
No,
Thank
no,
you so much for joining us. First
no,
and
it's
last.
just a discussion.
The FAC Live Show covers all things e commerce, with guests joining us from all across the world, sharing insight into their knowledge on the digital world. You're not going to find these conversations anywhere. Trust me, I look for them when it comes to the Caribbean. These things are extremely important, especially if you're a small business owner. If you're watching this on YouTube, smash that follow button and subscribe to learn more on how you can manage your online business. Today, we're discussing the importance of e commerce strategies in the public sector, and we are joined by Chris Burns, the CEO of FAC, and Carlos and Diane. We have individuals in Bermuda, Jamaica, Trinidad, and this conversation is so important because a lot of us has transitioned into a space of being in front of our computer, guilty right now, that's where I am. And we want to have this discussion because as a small business owner, you don't want to leave money on the table. So if you're just joining us, we did have a conversation on the unbanked. But for those who may not know, what is someone who's considered unbanked? Who wants to take that conversation?
Someone on being on bank could be identified in different ways. There is on bank because voluntary unbanked. There is also voluntary unbanked is where someone decides not to be bankable, and that could be for a number of reasons. Cost, family members already have bank accounts. Um, just systematic unbank where the actual you cannot access a bank account for either the lack of ID, and then there you have knowledge where someone is not aware of how they can become bankable. Oh, and then there's the unbankable in the system where they have tried, but however they're not able to access these services because of lack of address, lack of ID, and these different things.
Yeah, there are a
So,
lot of people
go
who
ahead, Dan.
deliberately stay outside of the banking system because it comes back to the trust. So we had some issues in Jamaica, for instance, with recent Chinese emigres who started shops in small rural towns. And for whatever reason, they keep their money at home or in a safe on the premises because they don't want to put it in the bank. And, so there are people who are unbanked, as Carlos said, because they don't trust the system. And there are people who are unbanked because they don't know how to work the system. So there are a number of reasons why people have no bank accounts. Obviously, some people are in illicit business as well. So they cannot go through a KYC process in a bank. And the KYC process has actually limited the number of people who will come and start a bank account. But what our banks have done in Jamaica is to have a simplified KYC, sorry, that's Know Your Customer process. And that Know Your Customer has really gotten very deep because you have to prove your identity, you have to have some form of ID. You have to be in the system. And that has become really a hindrance for some small businesses who just trade as a trading name, for instance, they're not incorporated. So the banks have now simplified their requirements for identification to assist some of those smaller companies to get into the banking system.
Yeah, and it's the same in Trinidad where we have had reduced KYCs to allow the same for persons who will only have one form of ID to meet that KYC requirement. The Minister of Finance reduced the KYC requirement to allow these persons to actually open a bank accounts. So we are seeing the trend across the globe as it relates to reducing the actual barriers for persons to actually enter the financial system.
And what would you say to someone who goes, well, this is all this information. Why you need to know all of this information for?
Well, so as somebody that deals with banks on quite a regular basis, I think, what we saw after certainly the last financial crisis, sort of 2008, 2009, there was, a lot of people running scared, and rightly so, in terms of what they were doing in terms of underwriting their businesses or their risk. And, when you look at, and then what that did, it empowered the compliance departments of finance institutions very significantly to tighten everything up. And their job is to ensure that banks and other financial services industries don't lose money by doing business with people that they effectively feel they don't know well enough to do business with them. But I think the issue, historically has been is that the same benchmark has been applied to everyone right across the board, regardless of maybe what their actual risk profile is. So, if I'm an individual and I just want to open a personal checking account that only has a debit card to it and no credit facility to it, that level of know your customer should be greatly reduced for me to do that. Because, the level of risk that I pose to that bank compared to, a company that is dealing in sort of higher risk goods or services. And, we classify that as something that has high value, average value, like something like jewelry, for example, or travel, which has had historically, a lot of issues, or telecom sometimes. The KYC, the know your customer on that, and the size of the entity should be more significant compared to just an individual that wants to opening a debit account, for example.
I don't know if it's the millennial in me, but I prefer to type away in the comfort of my home than to stand up in the line. So I will fill out whatever forms you'll need as long as it's online, just FYI. So there's this I think we could say that there's a trust issue when it comes to navigating online if you're not familiar with it. What are some of the hurdles that the public sector can see coming, and what is the solution to it?
I think the whole question of access to online is a critical question for the public sector to deal with. One of the things that we have done in Jamaica is try to open kiosks in small rural areas through the post office system. So if you put an internet kiosk in a post office, it encourages, it kind of makes it more accessible. It brings it closer to people. And I think that's what we have to do, because not everyone has access to a computer or a laptop at home. Not everyone has access to a smartphone. So we have to find ways to push information out to the grassroots level. So another thing we have is Alex, which is Agri Linkages Exchange. And what that does is send information to farmers, or allow farmers also to put on this exchange platform what produce they will have available. So I could put on there that I will have 200 pounds of potatoes, ready in 3 weeks' time. And a hotel purchaser could go on there and say, I need 100 pounds of potatoes. Let me get in touch with this person. So I think it's pushing the information out more and more, and getting people online, just really giving them incentive to get online. Because once they go online and they see how easy it is, by looking for weather, giving farmers information on the weather, on the climate, on a number of things that are relevant to their lives, that's what's going to change the picture.
Let me know if you are getting any issues on my side, because I'm seeing my internet bar is very low. So I'm gonna try. All right. So that's a great idea. And I think the wastage, it helps with food wastage as well. Because if you have, crops in season, and you know that this particular is ready, it's going to be something that you can tailor with. So I think Alex is such a great idea. Is there any equivalent to that, Carlos, for Trinidad?
Oh yeah, so within Trinidad and Tobago, the government has embarked on those access centers, making Wi-Fi and high-speed internet available in those rural areas, and to solve the same problem, giving access to persons who don't have access. So if you may not have access at your home, you can actually visit one of those centers where there are computers, there's high-speed internet for you to actually utilize to go online, actually see and do business, make those same said payments that we're speaking about, utilizing e-commerce features, utilizing e-commerce platforms to actually do business, and thereby helping trying to reduce that financial exclusion from the market and increase financial inclusion. Because remember, financial inclusion is a big part of everything that we're discussing. Because even still globally, we still have what 1.7 billion persons financially excluded from the system. So we have to understand and try to find out how can we reduce the number within our economies, within our countries. And we have, right in Trinidad, we have identified a number of ways, even smart cities having, one of the things is having the ARIMA, as one of those smart cities having Wi-Fi throughout the city, throughout the borough. So to help reduce financial inclusion, giving persons access to high-speed internet on the go in those access centers. So we have those already in place.
But yeah, there we go. So I'm curious about the agriculture space, because we import a lot in the Caribbean. We can't make everything. And then we also fed a lot by American media, so we think American means better. Do you see any correlation between e-commerce strategy adoption and us consuming what we make more?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it gives us more opportunity for the immediacy of purchase, the convenience of purchase, and it gives us greater linkages to our farmers, because I think we've talked a lot about farmers markets. I mean, organic produce, for instance, is definitely something we need to do in the Caribbean. We need actually to change the lifestyle and the consumption habits of our people, because right now what we are seeing in Jamaica is a lot of obesity, and a lot of that obesity comes from the fast food industry. Because I'm sorry, I won't call the names of the big fast food giants, but their food is not really healthy, and it is, expanding the waistlines of our people and creating a lot of non-communicable diseases, because too high in sodium, too high in fat content. So we really need to change the eating habits of our people. But the only way we're going to do that is to increase investment in agriculture. And the only way that can happen is if the banks get on board. So it's really a virtuous circle that we have to create. But I think it's all about promoting the healthy populations of the Caribbean, and changing our habits to eat more of what we produce, because we actually produce healthy stuff, but we don't produce enough. The CARICOM's food bill is between 5 and 6 billion US dollars per year, which is criminal, really, when you think of what all our countries could be producing. So we are definitely, and I know CARICOM is on this, 25% by 2025, reducing our food bill by 25% by 2025. And I think it's really a great opportunity for our farmers to get into the 21st century and really start to ramp up and scale up production.
Yeah,
5 billion. Wow.
and to add to the e-commerce component of that, what I've seen and has been very popular is these vegetable boxes that get delivered to your house. People, so a lot of farmers have created their own website. They create these sort of seasonal boxes that you can buy into, and then they'll deliver directly to your home. Fresh seasonal product that's been super easy to source, really easy to pay for. E-commerce is perfect for that, because you can do a one-time payment or recurring payments for that. And that is just, again, another real live example of how you can achieve that through technology, and making it just as easy as possible for people to buy from you.
Yeah, the ease is such an important aspect, especially with the new individual who's going to be making their salary coming out of the university and accustomed to using Amazon.com, which numbers are clear. But I want to talk about the regional audience and the international audience that we all have access to, but don't necessarily connect with. Maybe there's a connection there with e-commerce strategy, but we'll talk about that right after the break. And welcome back to First Atlantic Commerce. Here on the FAC Live Show, we cover all things e-commerce in the Caribbean. Our guests join us from across the world and generously share their expertise, knowledge, and insight into the digital world and how we operate within it. If you join us from LinkedIn, don't forget, and follow our page to continue seeing content that will help you grow your online business. As always, I'm joined by the CEO of First Atlantic Commerce, Chris. And we have the privilege of speaking to Carlos Newton. He is the Manager of Financial System Service Delivery at the Trinidad and Tobago Financial Center, as well as Diane Edwards, who is the President of Jamaica Promotions Corporation, also known as JAMPRO, the National Investment and Export Promotion Agency. We've covered so much about the e-commerce strategy, because people think you just put it up on a website and get customers and they're going to show up. Unfortunately, that's not what e-commerce is. So we're going to go into it now from a regional and international perspective. When it comes to building out an e-commerce strategy from a public sector perspective, where can you see the opportunities for small businesses to now have access to a global audience?
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly what the internet offers. So we have, I said we have the Go Digital platform, but in addition to that, we have a sister agency called Jamaica Business Development Corporation, and they have a retail arm called Things Jamaican. And that allows you to literally set up your shop within their retail arm and benefit from the promotions that they do for their website. And we encourage a lot of companies to go that route. But we also have a whole program called Export Max, which is targeted at small and medium sized businesses. And we have spent a lot of time in the last 2 years bringing them in touch with some of the larger players. So Amazon just designated Jamaica as a country which can do direct business on Amazon. And I'm sure a lot of other countries in the Caribbean are on that platform as well. But we can literally list our products directly on Amazon. We have Carib Shopper. We have a number of other platforms, and we have really said to SMEs, you can list your products on this platform, but exactly as you've said, we've got to promote. So hand in hand with the listing of the products and putting them online is really the question of promotion. So one of the things we've done is through our office in London, set up a whole demonstration in some cosmetic stores. So this is to take natural cosmetics made in Jamaica to the target market in the UK. So we partnered with a cosmetics set of outlets in London to set up demos in store. And so we had the owners of the businesses in Jamaica go up there, talk to their consumers, get everyone excited about these cosmetics, and then they could go online and purchase them. So you've got to do some kind of guerrilla marketing, and you've got to do online publications, social media. You have to build your brand equity and build your profile, because people won't just go to a website spontaneously. You have to be on the platforms. And out of that whole experience, one of our companies got featured in Elle magazine. So you can imagine, she couldn't pay for that. That was like real spontaneity, and as a result of the work that we were doing. So I think the opportunity is there for anyone to really make a name for themselves and create an influencer profile just by going out there. I mean, two of our biggest influencers in Jamaica have, over 100,000 followers each. And those followers are not just Jamaican, because if you look at the diaspora of the Caribbean, it's global. So if you just link to some of these Caribbean sites, you immediately take your business into a different realm. So it's a really exciting time, I think, for small businesses, because you really have an opportunity to supply globally.
That's such an important factor about the diaspora, because I was reading this article from Pew Research that says 6 million Caribbean people are in the US, and it's so there's growth that's going to happen exponentially. So what are we doing as small businesses to access that individual? So Carlos, do you have any insight for us?
Yeah. So within Trinidad and Tobago, we have a number of those resources available, websites and stuff that you can leverage to actually get your products out there. However, as a small business and as an entrepreneur, you have to really invest your time. Search engine optimization, having that done. Email marketing is another way that you can use. Content management systems, right? That those types of software that help you modify your actual websites, the things that you store on your website, the content, and utilizing these different services, different ways that you can actually get your products out there, other than if you just put it on the website and expect it to move. No, you have to really take it up and actually go out and do some of the work, do some of the groundwork, put things in place to actually draw persons to that website where they can actually purchase your products. As you said, 6 million persons within the US only, right? And we haven't checked globally how much that those numbers could be. So you have access to just 6 million more other than where the Caribbean has. So you have to really push your product out there, utilizing these services, utilizing the marketing tools that are available to you, digital marketing, and push the product out there.
Yeah, we've covered that brand equity conversation so many times on this show specifically, but I think it needs to be echoed over and over again. And I don't know if Chris want to touch on that, being able to connect with these businesses and seeing the effectiveness of those who have joined e-commerce for the first time.
Yeah, I think if I look at it from a public sector lens, there, governments really need to be, well, lead by example first. First they have all their services and the ability to pay online. They need to be able to show people by doing and allowing people to use those services how easy that is, but also investing in small business operations within the government. So, I know here in Bermuda, we have a couple that have been set up that are designed specifically to help people understand, take a business from zero right through to getting everything they need to be online, and their accounting and their, logistics and product sourcing, as well as, ones that we see in the private sector as well. So, it's, if I look at it, an example like Apple, for, their products are great. And that's one of the reasons they're so successful. But they are really good at training people on how to use them, so people find it very easy to do so. And I think we need to do something similar at a public sector level in terms of encouraging people to move towards this type of technology. And if I look at my parents, for example, who are a little bit older, but they've embraced that technology because they found it much easier to do so. And especially, and I've seen other economies build around that in terms of businesses being built to help, elderly people understand e-commerce. So, in the private sector, selling services to show them how to use internet banking, how to buy things on websites, what things to look out for that are unsafe when you're doing that, what emails not to click on, those types of things. And it's that constant reinforcement and education that's so important with that. But to go back to the other point around about, yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, if you're starting up a business and you're looking at Jamaica or Trinidad to begin with, that's fine. Grow your business, understand what it takes to run an online business and what it takes to be successful in your environment. But absolutely think global. If once you've established yourself, look at the broader world. It doesn't even have to be just the diaspora. If we have businesses here that look at that are aimed at tourists, and when they buy things here, they can only buy them here, and then they have an online store so people can come back and repeat purchase for that as well. But you're right, and we've had these conversations time and time again. It's not a sort of build it and they will come type scenario. You have to put as much effort into the marketing and attracting customers on a regular basis as you did into starting the business in the first place.
And that might be a lot for small business owners to all take in at once, but you guys chose this life. I didn't tell you to go be an entrepreneur. It's pretty hard.
Yeah. Oh, and you can outsource some of that too. So, we had a guest I went to told us about Fiverr as a website where you can, very cost effectively outsource different functions of your business to contractors or consultants at a very reasonable rate. And that, so it doesn't have to be all just you, and you don't have to take on that full-time expense of hiring employees to be able to get to a certain size. But there are websites out there full of individuals that are able to help you on a once a week basis or for a 3-month project or whatever that is at a very cost effective rate.
That's absolutely true. And I'm going to make a plug for a Jamaican guy's website. It's called The Hive. And it's actually meant to be a Caribbean-wide website. And it allows freelancers to go online, upload their profiles, upload their service offerings, and get business. And it's the Caribbean version of a 5 hour and Upwork. It's called The Hive. So check it out. And I think there are a lot of providers now who provide services in digital marketing who can really help you ramp up your business, improve your profile, get access to new customers. The whole point about going online is it has to be done professionally because everybody is going to see it. So never scrimp on going online. Your photography has to be good. The way your products are presented has to be really powerful, because you're going up against everybody, and the millennials and Gen Z, their attention span, Pauline, talking to you, attention span is real short. So you have to hit people. You got 30 seconds to make a first impression. You got to hit people hard quickly. You don't have time to develop things over pages and pages. You got to make your site sticky, and you got to make it powerful and communicative. So
Yeah, Dan, good way calling me out. But I must say, I'm not as bad as the next generation, because I was staying
Gen
at
Z.
a Airbnb, and the guy is 20, in his early 20s, and he runs a business. He has no time to listen to his voice notes on the regular speed. He listens to it on double speed. So now, you as a business owner, you have to capture that individual attention, because he doesn't even have time to listen to a voice note in his regular speed.
Yeah.
Crazy.
He's accelerated so fast.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what I would like from each of you is some insight into, for these small business owners watching this, what would be a key element based on the e-commerce strategies that we're talking about in the public sector? What's an opportunity that someone can look at for the future?
Well, opportunities for the future for e-commerce. I mean, that's like mega, I would say. I mean, the opportunity is really, I think, for the Caribbean to become a warehouse and a nearshore operation and an opportunity for the hemisphere. The Caribbean is really in the perfect place. We're in between North and South America. I mean, Jamaica is probably best of the best, but hey, you'll forgive me for saying that. But the point is that where we are, we really can become that entrepot, that warehouse from which you distribute product to the rest of the region, North America, Central America, South America. So we have a real opportunity, because the whole question of fulfillment now, and Amazon warehouses, etc. It's all about fulfillment. It's all about being close to the market, because we have seen the disruption of global supply chains. We have seen that getting your product from China now, I mean, people are waiting 6-9 months for their raw materials to come out of China. And so this can't go on, because it's backing up the entire supply chains and even production of consumer goods. So what you need now is to look at nearshore options close to market, where you can keep the product, and where when people buy online, you have 1 to 2 day delivery times. That's what people want. Those millennials with a short attention span, it's immediate gratification. So it's not, maybe I'll want this pair of shoes in 2 weeks' time. No, I want it in 2 days' time. So we have to improve that speed to market. And I think that if we do that, we have a fantastic opportunity as a region to become a supplier of choice in a number of different areas, which goes from consumer products to intermediate products to raw materials. So I think we just need to be a lot more nimble in analyzing those global supply chains and where we fit into them.
I must say, Dan, it was very on brand of you to say what you said about Jamaica, and I'm not even hating.
No apologies. No apologies. That's my day job.
All right, Carlos, what about you?
No, I'll just continue what Dan was saying, is that, yeah, you have to understand the whole sourcing and logistics and as well as look at market trends, look at what products, look at warehousing, look at working out relationships with the shipping companies to really leverage those e-commerce platforms. So it's not just about posting something online for sale and expecting someone to buy it, but you can get into the business of logistics and actually getting those products to persons in a short space of time because of our geographic location. And I would say Trinidad is ideally located to really to really spread it throughout the Caribbean, yeah, Jamaica as well. So, but yeah, we are as Caribbean people are ideally located to really move businesses and move products globally, not just throughout the region, but globally because of our location. So we can look at a number of different business lines. E-commerce is there, yes, but there are other alternatives to e-commerce. Someone is selling a product, it needs to be shipped. It needs to get to that end user after the payment is made. So we have to look at those avenues as well. How could we reduce the shipment time, seeing that we're in the Caribbean, and how could we leverage those business lines to really impact the economies within the Caribbean?
Yeah, we're both ideally located. I can see that. Chris, what about you? As Bermuda, I know
Well,
Bermuda's not ideally
well,
located.
well, I guess Bermuda's not technically in the Caribbean, so I'm not gonna sell that one. But we are very good for financial services. But I guess my thoughts on that are twofold. First is is technology in general, because that doesn't have to be shipped anywhere. There's a lot of good, very talented resources within the tech space within the Caribbean, and that can those as we've now seen even more, you know those that can be sourced from anywhere in the world in any time zone. And there our experience of the region is that it is very strong in tech, and that's a huge opportunity right across the board. Whether you're starting your own e-commerce business or not, if you're starting your own technology business, then there are a lot of great resources in the Caribbean, but then also and then taking advantage of the natural resources, the produce side of the Caribbean, and looking for a bit west and a bit south, opposed to just everything being sort of North American focused in terms of creating those partnerships, from an economy perspective, because there are a lot of growing economies there that could really take advantage of the produce side that Jamaica has to offer as well, and the Caribbean as a whole, and Trinidad and every other island.
What a diplomat! What a diplomat you are, Chris.
It's CARICOM, it's the same, we're all the same. I say that, but you know how different we are. Thank you so much, everybody, for this very informative session. I learned so much. I mean, I think top billing is definitely the informal sector. I'm no longer saying hustler, thanks to Diane for that, as well as insight to what's going to come. We're going to have to renew our driver's license, international paper. Let's all head over to Congress just to come through next 2 years. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks to Carlos and Dan for joining us today as we discuss the importance of e-commerce strategies in the public sector.
Thanks for having us, and nice
Thank you
to
for
meet
having
you
us.
guys.
Nice
Take
to meet
care.
each of you. Take care.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
everybody.
much. Be sure
Bye for now.
to follow our page and notify when we come back next facing live session. And we will see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye.